What's up guys, MizzoFrizzo from Pitchfork Academy here, and in this Unreal Engine 5 tutorial I'm going to show you how to set up a basic boost pack system. So as you can see here, I've got a progress bar down the bottom left, and if I jump and then press jump again, we will use that boost and be able to boost up, and if it's empty, I won't be able to boost again until it fills all the way back up. So if I'm boosting and I don't use it all, it is still available and I can boost any time. But if I run out, it's going to take 1 second to start recovering. And you'll see it's a nice blue color when it is not available. And as it becomes available over 80% full, it will lerp back to the yellow color to indicate that boost is available again. I've made this tutorial because someone in my Discord was asking about a boost pack system and they were using a whole lot of timelines, and timelines do have their uses. We're going to use a timeline in this tutorial, but basically we're mostly going to make this work with timers, and it is a very nice system. I'm very proud of it, and it is very easy to set up. But just before we get started, guys, if you like what we do here at Pitchfork Academy and you'd like to connect with more like-minded people, access to our Discord server, Mizzo's Dizzo, is available for just $1.50 per month via Patreon. The Discord server is becoming a pretty cool place to be. There's heaps of cool, and very funny, and very helpful and smart people, as well as an integrated AI chatbot to help you with your Unreal Engine 5 related questions. Your $1.50 per month goes towards that AI chatbot. It's actually a paid model, so it's very clever indeed, as well as helping to support us in what we do here at Pitchfork Academy. But without further ado, let me show you how to do this. Alrighty guys, now FYI, I'm going to be using the first person template for this tutorial, and I am doing this in Unreal Engine 5.5 just because the template projects in 5.6 leave a little to be desired. So I'm just going to do this in the older first person template in 5.5. Leave everything as default, name it whatever you like, and hit create. And now that the editor's fired up, I'm just going to go ahead and start deleting some of these static meshes from the level here and just make a little bit more space. I'm also going to delete the weapon pickup here and make a bit more room like so. And then let's head on down to the first person folder and blueprints. And just before we jump into the first person character blueprint here, let's also create a widget to show our boost. So we'll right click down here and under user interface, create a new widget blueprint. And this will be a user widget. I'll just call this W underscore main UI, something like that. And now that this is created, we'll be able to spawn this and add it to the viewport from our first person character. So go ahead and open up BP first person character. And right here, the input mapping context logic, I'm going to replace this with event begin play. So I'm going to delete both of these nodes here and grab event begin play and get player controller. Plug this into the enhanced input local player subsystem, and I'm going to drag off of here and press S to get a branch, and I'll just move this up a little bit and create a bit more space here. I'll plug this into then 0, and then I'm also going to create widget, and this will be our W underscore main UI. We can promote this to a variable, and I'll just call this main UI, and then I will also add to viewport. The next thing we can do is create a few variables. We're going to need quite a few different variables here, so this will take a moment, but let's create one and just call it boosting ? And this will be a Boolean. We can duplicate that one and we'll call this one boost available. And we'll also create one called boost duration, and this will be a float. We can duplicate this one and we'll call this next one min boost for minimum boost, and duplicate that call this one max boost, and we'll duplicate this one. Whoops. And we'll call this one remaining boost. And this one is going to be what we tie our progress bar to in our UI. So we'll make this run from 0 to 1 so we can compile this and make sure that the default value of remaining boost is set to 1. And those are all the variables we need for now. Now we're going to be using the IA jump that comes in the template project because this works absolutely fine, but I will expand this comment box quite a bit and we'll put it all in here. You can even change this comment box to say something like jump and boost pack input. And then we're going to need to call a few custom events along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and create those now, and I'll just put them down near the bottom here somewhere. So I'll create a new custom event and I'll call this one out of boost. And I'll also create one just called boost. And we'll have one that is called boost recovery or recover boost. And one more that we'll call interrupt boost recovery. And the other event we're going to need is event on landed. So I'll just pull this up over here, event on landed. This fires every time you go from the falling state into the walking state. So basically when you land, this will fire off. So we can use this. Okay, let's go ahead and start creating the logic for our boost pack. Now I'm going to grab this stop jumping and just pull it down here a little bit and make some space. And I'll actually disconnect jump here and I'm going to get the character movement component. And I'm first going to check is falling, because basically we want this jump input, the spacebar, to do something different. Depending on whether we're touching the ground or not. If we're on the ground, we'll jump. And if we're not on the ground, we will try to boost. So we can drag off of here and press B to get a branch. And make sure that you plug this into started, not triggered. Because we just want this to fire off once when we first press the spacebar. And then anything we connect down here will fire off when we release the spacebar. Okay, so if we're not falling, we just want to jump. But if we are falling, what we'll do is we'll get a branch and we're going to need a reference to the timers that we create to set the condition for this branch, but we'll first need to create them. So we'll create those in a moment, but this is going to be whether the timer is valid or not. And if the timer is valid, it basically means that we've already started to use our boost. So this is going to be the logic when you're, for example, in the air and you've stopped boosting and you still have some boost remaining and then you start boosting again. So I'm going to drag off of here and press S to get a sequence, and we'll set this up in a moment, but first let's set up the logic for when we haven't boosted yet. So what we'll do is we'll get our boost available Boolean. And before we forget, let's actually set the default value of this to true, because when you start the game, you will have boost available. And then we'll hold Control and click and drag this out, drag off of here and press B to get a branch, and plug this into the false like so. And then let's first create our timer, which is basically tells us if we still have any boost remaining. So we can drag off of here and set timer by function name. And the function name is going to be our out of boost. So we'll just Control C the name of this out of boost to make it foolproof, Control C that name, and post it into the function name right here. And then we are going to get our boost duration, and that is going to be the amount of time that this timer runs for. And now's a good time to set a default value for our boost duration. So let's just make it something like 3 seconds just to make this easy for testing. But the way that I'm going to set this up is so that you can change certain aspects of this boost, the default values, or you might have a leveling system where if you level up your boost pack, you can change the statistics for your boost pack. So this will all be very scalable indeed. I've tried to hard code as little of this as possible. Let's drag off of the return value here and promote this to a variable, and we'll call this something like boost timer. And this is the reference that we need for the condition of this branch right here. We basically want to check if there is a boost timer, and that's going to be the condition on this branch here. So we can get our boost timer, and then we can check is valid timer handle. Use this as the condition right here. Nice. We now also need to create the timer that's going to basically apply the boost to our character every 0.05 of a second. So we can duplicate this node here, and this one is just going to be boost. Boost. And if you want to be sure, you just want to make sure it's the exact same name as this custom event here, so you can Control C that name if you like, and just paste it in there. And we're just going to make this fire off every 0.05 of a second, and this is going to be looping, and we also do not want a delay on the start here. So you need to put the negative of whatever is in here, and it makes sure that instead of firing off after 0.05 of a second, it'll fire off straight away if we put in negative 0.05 here. We'll also promote this to a variable, and we'll just call this booster. This is basically, it's just going to apply the upward force to our character. And now that we have both of these timers, let's also add the logic up here for if we still have boost left. So if this boost timer is already valid, we don't need to create it. We can just play around with it up here. And the first thing we're going to do off the sequence here is interrupt our boost recovery, which is going to run on a timeline. So this is going to stop the timeline. We'll set that up shortly. And then we want to grab the boost timer here, and we actually want to clear and invalidate this. And that's because we want this to sort of start again, but with a new duration. So we have got this here, and this will fire, but then we're going to basically get rid of this timer, and we're going to start it again, but with a slightly different calculation of the duration here. So we can duplicate these to actually all three of these nodes here, duplicate these up here, and I'll disconnect the time here because what we want to do with the boost duration is actually check how much available boost we have. So we'll get our remaining boost, and we'll use this for the input on a map range clamped. And remember, this remaining boost is going to go from 0 to 1. So it's basically an alpha of how much boost we have remaining. So in range A and in range B will be 0 and 1. And then the out range will be 0 to whatever our max boost duration is. So if this is a little bit confusing to you, this basically checks how far between 0 and 1 we are, and sort of translates the output to be between 0 and the boost duration. So if this is 10 seconds, for example, and we have 0.5 remaining boost, then the output will be 0.5 of the boost duration. It would be 5 seconds. We'll plug this in like so. And the other thing we would want to do here is unpause this and start applying boost. So we can get our booster and unpause. Unpause timer by handle. And then in either of these cases, we are now applying boost. So we can get our boosting boolean here Alt click and drag it out. And in both of these cases, we'll set this to true. And this is going to basically dictate whether we update our available boost or our remaining boost on tick for the widget, just for the purposes of displaying it. And then we will also want to interrupt boost recovery. Nice. Next, we can go ahead and set up our custom events for running out of boost and applying boost. So we'll do our out of boost first. And this one is very, very straightforward. We basically want to set boost available to false. And we also want to set our remaining boost to 0. And we want to clear and invalidate both of these timers. So we can get our boost timer and our booster. We can clear and invalidate timer by handle and duplicate this again and plug this one in here like so. We'll do our booster now, and you could just have your boost pack apply basically a steady stream of boost, so the same acceleration or the same force rather, but I'm also going to show you how to sort of increase the amount of force it gives you, the amount of force it boosts you vertically by, based on the boost duration, so how far through this timer this is. So we'll just hard code it at a sort of flat amount right now, and what we can do is drag off of here and launch character. This is going to apply a force to the character. We can split this and just apply this to the Z axis. And if you wanted to make this just a consistent amount, you could just use the max boost and set a default value of this. So I'm going to set this to 60 or something like that. And later on, I'll show you how to sort of make this sort of accelerate faster as the longer you boost. All right, so quite a lot has gone into this, but stick with me and we'll get there in the end. It won't take that long. So let's go to event on landed now. And what we're going to do is check if our boost timer is valid. So we'll check if this is a valid timer handle. Drag off of here and press B to get a branch. And if this is valid, we want to pause it. So basically, this is if you land and you still have boost remaining. We want to pause this boost timer. So we'll pause timer by handle, and we'll also do the same for our booster. We will stop boosting if we touch the ground. And if this is not valid, we can just skip this node. So we can plug the false into here, and you might want to get a reroute node just to make this nice and clear. And then what I want to do now is basically check if we are totally out of boost. And if we are, we'll sort of give a small penalty by making a 1 second delay before our boost starts to recover. And then we'll also put in logic that prevents us from boosting again until our boost has filled all the way up. So kind of like a stamina system that won't allow you to use stamina if you totally run out of stamina. So let's get our remaining boost, and we'll just check if it's less or equal to 0. We'll get a branch, and then that's a good enough check to check if we are totally out of boost. And if we are totally out of boost, we'll set boosting to false. And actually, we'll do this in both cases. And if we are totally out of boost, we'll also set boost available to false. And I'm going to need a little bit more space here. I might just move these up here. And then we'll put in a delay. And I'm going to leave a bit of space here for some code I'm going to add shortly to sort of change the color of our progress bar if we run out of boost. It's a nice little effect. So we'll add that once we've actually added the progress bar. I'll change the duration of this to 1 second. So we'll have no boost recovery for 1 second. And then we will recover boost. And if we didn't use all of our boost, we will just go right ahead and recover boost like so. And that's all we need to do on event on landed for now. We will set up boost recovery, but just before we do, what I want to do is add some stuff to when we sort of release the spacebar up here. And actually, it's very similar to what we do when we land. We can actually grab all of these nodes here and duplicate them here, because when we release the spacebar, we just want to check if the sort of boost timer is valid. And if it is, we'll just pause these two timers. If it isn't, we don't actually need to do anything. So we can just delete that reroute node. And that is pretty much all we need to do here. Let's also set boosting to false. Nice. Okay, let's go ahead and set up our boost recovery. I'm going to put this down here, and I'll set this up right here in this space here. And what we're going to want to do is add a timeline, and I'll just call this boost recovery timeline and open this up. And I'm going to make mine 2.5 seconds long. Now, I suggest following along for now if you want to tweak these numbers later on and, change the setup. That's all well and good, but I do recommend following along for now. I'm going to add a float track, and this is 2.5 seconds long, and I'm just going to make this go from 0 to 1 in a linear fashion over 2.5 seconds. So I can do that by holding Shift and clicking twice to add two sort of keyframes. I'll select the first one and set the time to 0 and the value to 0. I'll select the second one and set the time to our maximum, which is 2.5 seconds, and the value to 1. And I'm going to leave this linear because I'm basically going to make this timeline start at wherever it needs to, depending on how much boost we have remaining when we call the recover boost function. So if, for example, we had 0.4 boost remaining, then I'll start this timeline right here at the correct value so that it just sort of evenly fills our boost up over time, if that makes any sense. I'm going to go back to the event graph, and the recover boost custom event here, I'm actually going to drag off of here and press S to get a sequence, because the first thing I want to do is actually set the time that I want my timeline to start, and then I'm going to press play on this timeline. And the time I'm going to start is going to be my remaining boost multiplied by the length of this timeline, which is 2.5 seconds. So this, remember, goes from 0 to 1. So if, for example, this timeline was half a second long, you would want to multiply this by 0.5, because that is going to mean that if remaining boost was 1, so if boost was full, the timeline would start at the end. And that's sort of what I was talking about here. So if I had, 0.73 boost remaining, it would start exactly at the right point in the timeline, as long as this is the length of the timeline here. So I'm going to put 2.5, plug this into new time like so, and interrupt boost recovery is just going to plug into the stop on the timeline like so. And then on update, we can just set our remaining boost. So I'm going to set this on update as the output of this float track. And on finished, we can set boost available to true, just in case it has been set to false here on landing. So if we ran out of boost and boost available has been set to false, then it will be set to true when the timeline finishes regardless. Alrighty, we can actually try this out now, and we might test it out, and then I might change our boost function here to give us a little bit of acceleration. So we can compile and save and hit play in the Pi, and if I jump and then press the space bar, I've got boost. Nice, that's working. And after 3 seconds, I think I may have run out. There we go. After 3 seconds, it should run out. And then I won't have boost because it's totally depleted. But if I still have boost and I land, I'll still have boost. And it's a bit hard to sort of see without the visual indication from the UI. So let's go ahead and add that now. But just before we do, basically what I want to do if I'm not setting remaining boost on this timeline is just set it on tick based on this timer here and this timer here, which is the same timer essentially. So when we use this timer, we'll use that to set our remaining boost, and this is obviously boost recovery. So this timer is sort of, completed and our boost is going up. We use this, but when it's going down, we will use this timer here. So we will look for event tick, and I want to do a check here because I don't want this running if it doesn't need to be, obviously on tick. So we'll get our boosting variable, and we'll also get an AND boolean, and we'll also check if our boost timer is valid. Plug this in here, drag off of here and press B to get a branch. Nice. So this will not execute if we're not boosting and also have this boost timer valid. And how we want to calculate the remaining boost is based on the time remaining in this timer. So we can get this reference and duplicate it, and we'll get the remaining time by handle, and we will divide this by the total boost duration and plug this in here. Nice. And now when we create our progress bar in our widget, we can just bind it to this remaining boost. But actually, before we do, I'm just going to add the acceleration that we talked about down here on the boost. So I'm just going to disconnect max boost, and I'll drag off of launch velocity Z and get a map range clamped. I'll get my boost timer and get the elapsed time of this timer. This is going to be my input here, my value. And obviously this boost timer runs up to a maximum of the boost duration. So we can put that in the in range B. So this is the input, and the range it is input is from 0 up to its maximum. And then the output can be from our minimum boost up to our maximum boost. And once again, like I said, I've tried not to hard code, really any of this. So you would be able to increase these numbers based on a leveling system if you like. But I'm going to make the default value of min boost 50, and the max boost I might pump up to something like 65. And if you really wanted to sort of, just level both of these evenly, you could also multiply these, get another one, and I'm just going to multiply these by 1. But you could, duplicate one of these variables and call it boost multiplier. And I'll just make the default value 1. And you could plug that into both of these like so, if you wanted. Nice. So now our boost will kind of accelerate the further on through boosting we have. It's not a super realistic system because you'll actually have more boost the more empty your boost pack is, but it's a game, and it's kind of a pretty neat mechanic. It means the lower that you run your boost, the sort of you get a little bit of a bonus in the boost. Nice. Okay, let's head on over to our UI. So I'm going to compile and save this, and then open up my w_main UI. The first thing I'll do is find a canvas panel and drop that in, and then I will also get a progress bar and I'm going to drop it down the bottom left like so, and anchor it to the bottom left, and I'll just put it more or less in the corner like so, and just extend it a little bit. Now, obviously, we have full boost by default. We're going to start with boost, so we can change the percent on the progress bar to 1. So this goes from 0 to 1. If you play around with this progress here, you'll see the bar empty and fill. And we will start this at 1. And then we'll bind this to the boost available in our character, remaining boost. But let's just create a reference to the character that's created this, this widget first. So we can go to the graph, and on event construct here, we can just get player pawn. And we'll use this to cast to our first person character, BP first person character. And then we'll promote this to a variable, and I'm just going to call it first person character, like so. And actually, while we're here, what we can do is we can basically dynamically change the color of our boost bar. And I'm going to set it up so that you can basically change the color of your boost bar here in the designer, and also the variable that sets what color it will be when it is emptied, when it's fully emptied and disabled, so that you can more easily change it in the future if you want to. So what you can do is actually get your progress bar here, and actually I'm going to rename this progress bar to something like progress bar underscore boost. And I'll go back to the graph, I'll get my boost progress bar, and then I'm going to get the fill color and opacity on construct here. I'm going to get the fill color and opacity, and I'm going to set a variable, and we'll just call it boost fill color, and plug this in here. So whatever we set the color of that progress bar to, on construct, when you start playing, it will store that here. And then what we can also do is duplicate this variable, and we'll call it boost empty fill color. And so this one we can set in the designer. We'll go back to the designer in a moment. But boost empty fill color, we can compile and set the default down here. And I'm actually going to set this as the default color of the progress bar here, because I like this color for the boost being disabled. And then I'm going to make it kind of a more yellowy color for when it's available. So I will get my boost empty fill color, and down here I'm going to set this to 0.5 value on the green, 1 on blue, and 1 on alpha. And that is the same color, the default color of the progress bar there. And then we can head back on over to the designer, and with the progress bar selected, I'm going to change the default color here, and I'm going to make it 1 on the red, 1 on the green, and 0 on blue, so that it is yellow. And then now, because we've got that reference to the first person character, just going to move this up a little bit, we can select the progress bar, and next to percent here, we can bind this to a variable so that this is just updated based on the variable. So we'll create a binding here, and we will get our first person character reference and get available boost. Get, sorry, that's not the one. Get remaining boost. Plug this in here. And that is good to go. We can compile and save that. Make sure our character is compiled and saved. And now we have our progress bar that displays our boost. We haven't changed the color yet, but you'll see that after 1 second, it's delayed, and then I can't boost again till it's full. But if I still have boost available, it will just start filling when I land, and I can just keep on using it. But then if it's emptied, it's disabled for 1 second, all the way until it's full again. Nice. Alrighty, the very last thing I want to do, guys, is change the color of our progress bar depending on whether our boost is available or not. So it's quite a nice little effect, and it's not too hard to set up. So in our first person character, down here on landed, when we are totally out of boost right here, we make boost unavailable. The reason I left this space here is so that I can add a node here. What I'm going to do is get my reference to the UI, main UI. I can get the progress bar boost, and I can set fill color and opacity. And the color I'm going to set it as, if I drag off of main UI here, is I can get the boost empty fill color and plug that in. Nice. Now the other thing to do is basically set this back to the standard color when our boost is available. And we can do that right here on boost recovery when this timeline is finished. But instead of just setting it straight back to the other color, I'm going to make it lerp for the last kind of 20% of this timeline because it's quite a nice effect. So what I'll do is I'll get my boost available, and I first want to check if this is not available. So I'll get a not boolean. And this is basically so that this only fires if this was set to false. So if we did indeed fully run out of boost. I can get an and boolean here. And I can also check if the output of our float track here is greater or equal to 0.8. And that means that only in the last 20% of this timeline will this logic fire off. If we put a branch here, we're going to basically set the color. So we can grab these nodes from down here, the set fill color and opacity, duplicate them up here. And there's actually a lerp color node. So we can search for lerp linear color, and we can also get our main UI reference. And we're going to lerp from the empty boost to the default boost color. So we can first get our empty fill color, plug that into the A, and then also just get our regular boost fill color, plug that into the B. And for the alpha, we need to use a map range clamped here. So we can find a map range clamped. The value will be the output of the float track from our timeline. But because this is only going to fire after this gets over 0.8, what we can do is make the in range 0.8 to 1, because that's what it's going to be. And the out range will just be 0 to 1. So this will convert the 0.8 to 1 that this is outputting when this is firing off into a 0 to 1 alpha for this lerp node. And that's it. That should all be working now. So we can hit compile and save and hit play, and I'll full screen that. And we can try this out. If I start boosting, it will empty, still got boost, and it fills back up. Very nice. And if it runs out, it'll start refilling 1 second after we land. It's blue, and it will lerp back to yellow as it crosses that 80% threshold when that progress bar fills up. Very, very nice. That's all working as intended. And that's it, guys. If this tutorial has been of any use or value to you whatsoever, please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.